Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from the introduction of Imam Al-Ghazali's on disciplining the soul, Kitab Riyadat al-Nafs. Of course, introduction of the translator, teacher Winter Abdul Hakim Murad. This was published by the Islamic Text Society in Cambridge in the UK in 1995. We are on page 20. The very last thing that we have read at the end of the last session, we have read about the Quran also speaks of what may be regarded as more secular virtues, and we said that there are no secular virtues per se. They cannot be. In fact, the discussion is whether if one is deprived of revelation, would he or she reach these virtues. At any rate, so the Quran also speaks of what may be regarded as more secular virtues, which must characterize the practitioners of its message: generosity, courage, loyalty, truthfulness, and patience receive the greatest emphasis. It holds up a range of examples from the past as ideals for the moral life. Ibrahim alayhi salam, Abraham, for instance, is mild, imploring, and penitent. Then now we continue reading. Sage Luqman al-Hakim counsels his son thus: ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمشي في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور واقصد في مشيك واغضض من صوتك إن أنكر الأصوات صوت الحمير. Do not turn your cheek. That was his advice to his son. In scorn towards people, nor walk with arrogance upon the earth. God loves not the arrogant boaster. Be modest in your bearing, and subdue your voice. Though it's not included here, the worst voice is that of the donkeys. Modesty, being down to earth, does not mean that. It does mean that you humiliate yourself. Remember, the pride that is related to certain contexts. In facing the enemy, for example, that's not frowned upon. And one example is in the Sirat ibn Hisham. His one companion, whose name is Abu Dujana, who walked in a way. He was very boastful, proud because in front of the Meccan idolaters, and that kind of walking, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala detests, except in such a context. Yes, it was in the context of Ghazwat Uhud. And the Prophet ﷺ is told now, it was by the grace of God that you were gentle with them. Had you been stern and fierce of heart, they would have dispersed from round about you. So pardon them and ask forgiveness for them and consult with them. فبما رحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر. So it's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be gentle with one's own uh, brothers and sisters, the community, and other than pardoning and asking for forgiveness, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness, and consult with them in affairs, وشاورهم في الأمر, in the affairs. Of course, the consultation will never be about an act of worship, for example, will never be about fasting a month other than Ramadan, will never be about performing pilgrimage to other than المشاعر in Mecca. The noon Dhuhr prayer will always be 4 rak'at, Maghrib 3, Fajr 2. The zakah will always be 2.5% on money that is zakatable reach a certain amount for a lunar year. Yes, that's not the where you consult. But when for example, we have just mentioned the Battle of Abu Dujana and the Battle of Ghazwat Uhud. Sorry, I think it was Ghazwat Uhud. Yes. When there were times when the Prophet ﷺ asked his community, "Ashiru alayhi." He asked them to offer advice, sometimes to see where they stand, and the Sahaba knew that the companions from the indigenous people of Medina, Al-Ansar, they knew that the Prophet ﷺ was asking them. He did not want to bring them war, but it was the Meccans who initiated the wars and followed the Muslims all the way to Medina. Badr is close to Medina. Uhud on the edge of Medina. Al-Khandaq surrounding the Medina immediately. So this is really they pursued a zero-sum game, and the Prophet ﷺ did ask. So the consultation is in matters where there is no revelation. So today you might say the consultation, it could be about foreign policy, it could be about the economy, yes, the education. Why, for example, Finland has the best, and I'm talking about in general as a methodology, why Finland has the best educational system? Why? Why 10 million people in Sweden could produce Maersk, could produce IKEA, could produce Volvo, and much more, whereby many countries, Muslim or not, they did not produce the same. What is the ethos? What kind of work ethics? So one might consult. So we have 2 verses about consultation about shura in the Quran. There's a third one about family affairs, but that's not really the issue. At any rate, and consult with them in affairs in the affairs. Also, another verse: Your Lord decrees that you worship none save Him, and be kind to parents. Should one or both of them attain to old age with you, then do not say fey to them, oof, or repel them, but speak to them with gracious words. Lower to them the wing of humility through mercy, and say, my Lord, have mercy upon them as they did care for me when I was small. وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه بالوالدين إحسانا إما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما. Uh, your parents could be either Muslim or uh, non-Muslim. If they are Muslim, uh, they have an additional uh, right, if you will. Your parents, if they are not Muslim, they still have rights over you. Uh, I remember I was at a mosque in South Africa, and a man who had a backpack on him. He was of European Caucasian descent. He became Muslim. He came and he spoke with me, and he was married before he became Muslim. And he told me that he divorced his wife after he became Muslim, and obviously he behaved in a way that definitely he angered his parents. And I told him immediately, practically, did you love your wife before you became Muslim? He said yes. He said, I told him, just go back and take her back as your wife. Uh, you don't force her. Remember, in the Quran, it's in Surah Al-Ma'idah. I did not mention to him in this verse, but I'm mentioning this to you right now. والمحصنات والمؤمنات والمحصنات من الذين أوتوا الكتاب من قبلكم. So, what is lawful for you in terms of marriage, though the context is larger, it's also about sharing food. So, the chaste woman amongst the believers and chaste woman amongst the people of the book who received the books before you, meaning Jews and Christians, certain conditions, of course, apply. So, I told him, just go back and take your wife back. And I told him to fix things with his parents, to mend things. Your parents, even if you become Muslim, they have rights over you. In fact, it should be the other way around. You should take care of them much, much, much more. And I've seen stories, and I know I've met people. They notice how, even in fact, they became very kind to their parents. They start their behavior becomes very positive. That's the more common, I believe, example. Taking care of parents. We see certain disintegration of the family. It shouldn't be the case. Other passages condemn backbiting, lying, extravagance, and hypocrisy from the Quran, of course. And of course, there are traditions about this. And praise justice, some of these passages. Sexual restraint, forgiveness, and moderation. Sexual restraint, one is required to exercise sexual restraint even within, with one's spouse. During the month of Ramadan, during the day, you are going to practice sexual restraint. You don't really, for that is when your wife is menstruating, you don't really have a full intercourse with her. But when postpartum, until she becomes clean forgiveness and moderation, building up a comprehensive system of practical ethics, which was firmly to underpin the ideals of subsequent Muslim society and thought. This is why sometimes we need to think not only through the individual lens, but also through the communal one, and there should be no contradiction. The word akhlaq, which later became the standard term for ethics, occurs only once in the Quran, in a singular form, khuluq, which here bears the apparent meaning of character or character trait. In a celebrated verse, the Prophet is told, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, truly yours is a tremendous trait of character. إنك لعلى خلق عظيم. If we may add to this, when Aisha radiallahu anha was asked about the character of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, she said, كان خلقه القرآن. And if you talk about the form, خلق and خلق have the same form without the short vowels. So creation and ethics, so the correlation, one should really think about this correlation. Yet in the hadith, the vast body of sayings and episodes attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, it is employed very extensively, the word khuluq or akhlaq, as the first section of the present translation will show. Perhaps the best known account is that tradition according to which the Prophet ﷺ said, I was sent only to perfect the noble qualities of character. إنما بعثت لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق. Okay. So the Prophet ﷺ was sent to, of course, Tawheed. You have the whole Sharia, you have the whole Quran, of course. But لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق, it means there were good things, noble qualities that existed amongst his own people, but there were deficiencies too. And he wanted to augment, to confirm that which is good, noble, praiseworthy. And this is a chance to speak about the notion of the meaning of Jahiliyyah. Jahiliyyah is in general in Islamic writings. It's a reference to the age of ignorance, the pre-Islamic period. So the pre-Islamic period is described as such. There is Arabic poetry from the pre-Islamic period. It is called Ashar al-Jahili, just simply. The content might be really good, but as a period, as things became known as before and after, and Umar ibn Khattab was radiallahu anhu, the one who took the hijrah. We are about to commemorate the hijrah within a few days on inshallah on next Sunday. He took that date as the beginning of the Islamic calendar. The Jahiliyyah, were people generous? Oh yes. Hatim al-Ta'i was a pre-Islamic generous person. The Prophet ﷺ met with his daughter and his son, who became Muslims, but hadn't passed away before Islam. But he was the most generous in during that period. There are at least two versions, two stories, but in both of them, he showed the utmost generosity. So the Arabs in general, they were generous. They are, in fact, this is something that it is well known, it is well documented. Number two, they would say the truth. Abu Sufyan, radiallahu anhu, when he was in Jerusalem, when he met with Hercules, he asked him about the Prophet ﷺ, many questions. And Abu Sufyan said that he was afraid that had he lied during that, he was not a Muslim yet. Had he lied, he did not want to lie. He did not want people to have him on record lying. People did not. People in general, people did not lie. They were generous, did not lie. The alliances that they had in pre-Islamic period, the Prophet ﷺ was part to an alliance to protect and defend the weak and the meek, and so there were good characters. Except that one of the things is that they were idol worshippers. Certain things that they practice, femicide, so infanticide, but really talk about girls, burying girls alive. That was one of the serious problems. They they used to misbehave. Uh, the kinds of marriages, which is simply another word for uh, illicit sex. Some of these contracts were simply to allow uh, such behavior, and of course, wine was available at least. So, why I'm talking about the Jahiliyyah with some detail? It is the fear of the political implications, the political implication. When one uses this term Jahiliyyah to depict a modern society, a Muslim modern society, in a way that could be understood to justify violence against the society, against the government, against the government personnel. I remember I was once at the airport. It must have been like 20 years ago, or I was at the airport in Egypt, and there was this very tiny policeman wearing white policeman uniform, sitting on a chair in the airport, holding a mushaf of the Quran. And in my mind, I said, how could they? And they, now you understand, how could they legitimize attacking such a person? He's Muslim. He's inshallah pious. Inshallah with ethics. Inshallah with morality. Uh, how could they? Those who would declare them as non-believers. This is a serious issue. So I think it's very important to discuss the notion of jahiliyyah every now and then, so that people will not be swayed. They will not be basically pushed into brainwashed into use of violence against one's own community. Yes. So the Prophet ﷺ was sent to augment, complete إنما بعثت ليتمم مكارم الأخلاق. Many other hadiths commend improving the character. For example, O Lord God, Thou hast made good my creation, therefore make good my character also. اللهم كما حسنت خلقي فحسن خلقي. This is the narration of Abdullah bin Mas'ud. It's good, has good chain of narrators, almost the same, but rather than حسنت أحسنت فحسن أحسن. So that's the narration of Aisha, and it's a sound tradition, inshallah. Yes. Another hadith, a bondsman of God, إن العبد, may attain through his good character high and noble degrees in the afterlife, even though he be feeble in his worship. There are several versions of the same hadith إن العبد, a different version إن المؤمن لا يبلغ لا يدرك بحسن الخلق درجة الصائم القائم، درجة الصائم القائم بالليل الضامي بالهواجر. As I said, several versions of the same tradition. Uh, but this is really the issue is حسن الخلق, a good character. It would elevate his or her status in the hereafter. Another, we have the hadith, heaven is surrounded by unpleasant things while hell is surrounded by desires. This is حفت الجنة بالمكاره والنار بالشهوات. Another tradition, this one is has a weak chain of narrators. If you see a man who has been given a renunciation, zuhd, of the world and goodly speech, then draw close to him, for he has been taught wisdom. One thing is that this is not really a sound tradition. Number two, rather than goodly speech, I think it is قلة منطق. قلة منطق. He restrains himself once it comes to speech. He speaks very little rather than goodly. والله أعلم. وقلة منطق. So he's not silent, but he's close to that. قلة منطق. And today, many people in different contexts, even in the professional world, they speak about, don't explain yourself too much, don't speak often. There is a serious problem about the psychological roots of those who keep speaking. Yes. The Prophet ﷺ expounded an attitude of responsible austerity based on the Quran, in which extremes of worldliness and of asceticism were eschewed. He placed great emphasis on integrity of conduct, and there are many hadiths which depict his own personal excellence, which undoubtedly go a long way towards explaining the devotion and loyalty which he evinced in his followers. For example, we have these three traditions. That would be the end of this, the second section of the introduction. The three traditions are God will not show mercy to him who does not show mercy to others. من لا يرحم الناس لا يرحمه الله. This hadith متفق عليه, agreed upon. A man does not believe until he likes for his brother what he likes for himself. This is the golden rule. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. And number 3, all creatures are God's children. This hadith uh, is weak. In fact, some in certain contexts it's considered very weak. And those dearest to God are the ones who treat His children most kindly. Yes, I think first of all the translation also could be different. عيال, they are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All creatures are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And those dearest to God are the ones who benefit those who are dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At any rate, it is a very weak tradition. We can simply think about the notion of nafa, and I think this is something that we can begin with at the beginning of the next session, inshallah. Until then, subhanakallah wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.